Hello, my friends. Your buddy Phil here, project management trainer and coach. It's time for our daily drill. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some multi-connection point drills. I have some good news to share with you. Lots of you have been asking, when is the next training? When is the next course? Well, the next course is starting on the 20th of June, and it's running to August 8th. So on the screen here, you can see the details. Just go on down to pmsucceed.com. Sign up. We're going to be meeting on Saturdays. It's going to be 2 hours every Saturday. Imagine the momentum we're going to build. We're going to build up, and we're going to be hitting 3 of those chapters. We're going to be going into scenarios, which is going to be very interesting. We're going into scenarios. We're going into questions, and it's going to be a course built on scenarios and a lot of questions. But not just that. We also have over 70 hours. In fact, if you add up all the hours, it comes to about 90. So you got 90 hours of video and audio content for you in this course. We also have a 500+ page book. It is just going to be fantastic. I'll tell you more about it later. But let's jump into the very first question. Authorization process for the project has just been completed. From this process group, you obtain, what do you obtain? Think about this. I'll give you 30 seconds. And this is how I run the training. I give you questions to answer. You got to think about it. You got to choose the right one. Go for it. Okay, now before we get into the multi-connection point drills, I'll give you about 5 of these. So we got to go quick. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you very much. Now let me just show you how I roll with these. If I get a question such as this, there are things that I would do first. I would read it. Of course, I would choose the right answer, which you can see on the screen. It's assumption log. Yeah, it's assumption log. But I would first of all look at the authorization process lingo used here, because this lingo is pointing to the fact that this is in initiating and this is develop project charter, because it says authorization process. Get it? And then you can also see it says from this process group. So what do you obtain from this process group? And the only thing that you can see on the screen from this process group is assumption log. And that is why the answer to that first question is assumption log. All right, let's go on to our next question. Next question states, authorization process for the project is in progress. Which input should you use for this process group? I'll give you about 30 seconds. All right, well, let's take a look at what the answer could be now. So taking a look at the screen, you can see it says authorization process for the project is in progress. As usual, we know this is initiating, but then it says which input should you use for this process group? And when you take a look at all the options using the process of elimination, you know that you wouldn't use the scope baseline as an input to initiate it. You would not use the project scope statement either. These come in planning. You would also not use the changelog, but you would use the stakeholder list as an input to the identify stakeholders process. But you do know that the stakeholder list is really in your project charter. So the best answer to this is stakeholder list, because this is a subset of your project charter. So whenever you get questions like this, try and eliminate what is not associated with that process group. Okay, let's go on to our next question before we hit our multi-connection point drills. This one states, authorization process for the project has just been completed. What should you do next on the project? Give you 30 seconds to think about it. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So just reading, you can tell that authorization process for the project, they're really talking more about the develop project charter process, right? So you're talking about develop project charter. We can then, through the process of elimination, cancel out what we have already done. We've already done develop project charter, so the project charter is not next. We are in the authorization process group, if you will. We're just done with the authorization process, but the next process that it would make sense to do would not be develop project management plan, and it would not be the risk register, right? The next thing should be to identify stakeholders. So the answer to this next one is C. So I hope this makes you think a little bit more. I know some of you've not encountered these questions before and you're a bit taken aback, and that's okay. But I want you to begin thinking. You got to think about every word. It didn't say the initiating process group is done. It said the authorization process for the project has just been completed. In other words, develop project charter has just been completed. What would you do next? On page 25, you would go straight down, right? All right. Let's go to another one. Here is your next question. And this states, the stakeholder cube was used to compile the following: power, interest, and what? 30 seconds. All right, time up. Let's take a look at the question. In the stakeholder cube, you have 3 dimensions. Here's a reminder, if you have forgotten what those 3 dimensions are. Remember, it is like a cube. So when we say stakeholder cube, we're talking about something like this. And we're talking about an axis along not only the Y, but also an axis along the X, right? So we have something like this. And we're also talking about an axis along the Z, or something like that. So when you think about the stakeholder cube, taking a look at what I have on the screen here, you should be thinking about power, for example, on the Y-axis. It could be any of the axes, but let's say power is on the Y. Let's say interest is here on the X. And on the Z-axis, we have attitude. And like I said, these axes could be shuffled. You could have X, Y, Z, different arrangements. You could have interest on the Y if you want. But the bottom line is the 3 dimensions, and they're power, interest, and attitude. That is typically what you have on the stakeholder cube. And the further forward you get on the Z-axis, and I'll just draw a circle here to show you what I mean. Out here, the positive attitude over here, right? We look at that as a high level of power, a low level of interest, but a great attitude. Let's draw a blue circle here, right at the back. You can see a high level of power, a high level of interest, but a rotten attitude. So the 0 point right over here tells you attitude. Is it a 0 or is it positive towards the front? One more example. I will draw this with a green. And over here, we have someone with a high level of interest, but not such a high level of power. That's meant to be green. Let's do it with a green. So high level of interest, low level of power, bad attitude. So such people, make up your own strategy about how you will handle them. Are these going to be your top stakeholders that you're going for? All of these questions can be answered by the team. And that's why we don't just assess stakeholders with power and interest or influence and impact, but we also look at the salience model, right? We also look at the stakeholder cube. And here we're taking a look at the stakeholder cube: power, interest, and attitude. That is typically what you see. So a mini lesson within our little exploration today. So the answer to that is attitude. Okay, let's talk about one more thing. I'll give you one more question. Before I give you that question, a quick reminder for those who are just coming. On the 20th of June, we are starting our next round of training. If you want to be part of it, go to pmsucceed.com, sign up. It's going to be 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern, every Saturday. And we're going until the 8th of August from June 20th. You want to be part of this. We've got all kinds of great perks here. We've got over 90 hours of video and audio content for you that you'll be able to access for 6 months. That is ridiculous. If I were you, I'd head on down to PM Succeed, get that really low price. You cannot find that price anywhere for training of this caliber. I mean, the training you find for hire is not of this caliber. So head on down to pmsucceed.com, sign up. We'll be looking forward to seeing you. All right, let's go to our next question. The salience model was used to compile the following: power, legitimacy, and what? I'll give you a minute to think about this one. Go for it. Okie doke. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you very much. The answer to this question, my friends, is urgency. That's right. Power, legitimacy, and urgency. Urgency is the third rung that is talked about in this area. Okay. So now we're done with these 5 questions. You guys have an idea of how I run these sessions. These are very, very basic questions. The questions I've shown you are very basic. The questions in the training session are a lot more involved than this. All right, so let's go to the detailed timetable. I'm going to take you through chapters 1, 2, and 3, week 1, 4, 5, and 6, week 2. We're going to have a midterm on the 4th of July. Those folks who are not able to join can catch up and do any additional study, not just chill, do whatever they need to do, but we will not be meeting formally on the 4th of July. Now, I may put out content for you guys to look at, to read, to watch, but you are free to stay home, enjoy yourself. Don't turn on the computer. The 4th of July is a big deal for many of us in the United States. For those of you not in the United States, there will be a curriculum for you to follow in these catch-up sessions. So I would say, don't worry about it. If you don't celebrate July 4th, we will keep you engaged on that weekend. All right. Now, the following weekend on the 11th, we have cost, the big kahuna, quality and resources. Then on the following week, on the 18th, we have communications, risk, and procurement. And then we have stakeholder management on the 25th. And we also have professional responsibility. We have a full program for professional responsibility. We don't play around with it. So we got questions to ask you for every single one of these. Now, the way these are run, the way they are done, we have a lot of scenario questions. So we could show you a scenario and then ask you, based on what you've seen, what do you think the answer to this question is? And the scenarios are very, very simple. Those of you who've attended the training, you know how simple these scenarios look. But the questions, they just bring out the best in you. They find the gaps and they help you close the gaps. And then we have Formula Mania on the 1st of August. And the following weekend, we have the mock exam final. We'll be looking for you guys to come prepared to face that mock exam. But before we take the mock exam, we usually have a quick catch-up session, button-up session, button everything up, and then we unleash you to go take a look at that mock exam. All right, so that is the program that we have for you. And of course, if you have any questions, you want to go to praizion.com. But before you ask your questions, how about a multi-connection drill? You thought I forgot that? No such luck. We are doing a multi-connection drill. So my question to you, first of all, is from which process do we get an output known as deliverables that goes into another process? So before you talk about the second process, can you tell me the answer to the first one? Which process do you get deliverables from? All right, now let's build on that. You've got the answer? Good. Deliverables are an input to a second process. And this process uses a tool and technique known as information management. So two things I'm looking for from you here. I'm looking for A, this process right here, okay? And then I'm looking for B, this process right here. I expect you to be able to do this, A and B. What is A, what is B? Okay, have you got your answers? All right, so let's do the first one here. The first one over here is none other than direct and manage project work. Yes. That's the process, direct and manage project work. The second one, which you probably have guessed, hopefully, because I've given you a hint to the tool and technique, it is manage project knowledge. Manage project knowledge uses deliverables as a tool, not as a tool technique, I beg your pardon, as an input, and it uses information management as a tool and technique. All right, fair enough. Good, I hope that makes sense. Let's do our next part of this puzzle here. The next part of the puzzle is for you to tell me, based on this association that I'm about to show you, which is a process that uses regression analysis, I want you to tell me which process this is. You know that it uses regression analysis as a tool and technique, and I'm going to call this process C. And I'm also going to build on that, and I'm going to ask you what the relationship is between this one, manage project knowledge, and this process where regression analysis is used. So I'm going to call this output X. So do you know what output X is? You might need to think about this for a minute. But ideally, what I'm looking for is what is the output that comes from managed project knowledge that goes to this process where regression analysis is used? I'll give you a clue. This is going into the sub-level of association. You got to think about the sub-level, and this is where I begin to channel your thinking to the sub-levels. So you got to think sub-levels, all right? I'll give you a minute and a half to think about this. Go for it. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for your ideas. There's only one process that regression analysis is used in, and that process is known as close, project, or phase. But you already knew that, didn't you? Yes, you did. And the output in question is, of course, nothing other than the lessons learned register, which you see as a sub-input. You see it as a sub-input to close, project, or phase. But this is a massive association that you need to be aware of. And the reason will come to light in my final question that I'm about to ask you. Before I show you the final question, again, those of you who are just coming, you want to make sure that if you have not already visited pmsucceed.com, you want to visit pmsucceed.com because we have all sorts of training, coaching, study aids, great stuff that is coming up very, very soon. This is where you need to go, pmsucceed.com, sign up for the training, and we're going to be bringing you 6 powerful weeks of studying with access to over 90 hours of video and audio content. You're going to get the 20-hour MP3 series, well-known series known as the Project Management Audio Digest. And you're also going to get this 500 plus page book PDF form. So if that's you, wherever you are in the world, sign up for this, because the training that's out there, first of all, it's not up to this caliber. And secondly, you will be charged an arm and a leg for it. So if you really mean business, you want to be on this virtual blended camp, okay? And I just showed the timetable. We're going for 6 weeks, and this is the curriculum. For every week, I have an assignment that I want you to complete. So some weeks I want you to work on these video assignments, and other weeks I want you to work on these quizzes and additional content on our learning management system. So you have so much content, but not just that. In addition to all of this great content, you have huge, huge support. You're going to be able to join our special group on Facebook, where you can keep up the momentum and ask questions and be engaged. All right, so if you're looking for something of that nature, go to pmsucceed.com. All right, so going back to our final question. I'm going to show you all the answers, nice and pretty. And here are all the answers. Okay, so there you go. But the final question, what is the output of this process that is directly linked to the output that I have highlighted here that goes into it? In other words, this. It is directly connected to it. What is the output? I'll give you a clue. The output starts with the letter L. The second letter starts with the letter L. Now I've given it away. The third letter starts with the letter L. And it's not lessons learned register updates. Okay, the answer to this one, my friends, think hard, you'll get it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a sub-input, or sub-output, I should say, known as the lessons learned repository. And this is a sub-output under your organizational process assets updates. So you have learned, hopefully, a few things today. If nothing else, you've learned something from the questions or something from here. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me. Again, remember, because lots of you have been asking for it, that's the website to go to, and I'll see you very soon. Hopefully I'll see you one of these Saturdays. So be sure to make it happen.